Okay, so what I'm doing here, or I guess to show what I have first, I got it so essentially are spawning some bricks, and right now they're not like actual bricks. They don't really do anything. You know, the balls don't do anything. Like there's no collision. They're just kind of there, which is fine. That's something to fix. I'll need to kind of revamp. I mean, the collision that I already have is, as you can see, pretty abysmal. Well, I mean, it kind of depends, but there's weird stuff that happens pretty consistently, like that. I need to fix that. I just kind of did like a very kind of early stage collision, but focusing on the bricks right now. Kind of want to be able to do a cooler layout of bricks. So just to show what I have right now is we have, and I just kind of refactored a little bit, but at this point we have what's called a brick scene, which is a class that, as you can see, is a encapsulation of the group of bricks. So it has an array of bricks where the bricks are just rect positions, which are just things that have the X, Y, width, and height pretty much, and then just some functions to get the, you know, coordinates based on the sides and tops and bottoms and stuff. So we have that. So the brick scene is that array of those positions, or a vector of those positions, and then also a scene width and scene height. And what scene width and scene height means is kind of this right here, where you'll have like, I guess it's probably easier to just show it with the game. So you'll have, you know, all these bricks, and what you have is, you know, each brick is the same width, and then you have a certain number of columns. In this case, we have like, I think 10 columns and 3 rows. So scene width just means, you know, essentially what is this coordinate right here, or what is this value here? And this is also based on this before being translated, so it's really down here, but it's just saying essentially what is the distance between here, the far left side of the left column's brick, distance from there to the right side of the rightmost column's brick. So that's what that logic is, and it's kind of could potentially be a little confusing, so I just threw this diagram here to kind of explain it. So in the future, I'm not confused as to like what all this is. But this total brick width is the same, is, you know, what the scene width is, and the scene width is just what I'm calling, you know, the width of the brick scene, which the brick scene is just the kind of a grouping of bricks, which would make sense because, you know, once the game kind of has different levels and whatever, you kind of load, you know, a given brick scene for a given level. So that's the idea. But right now, so I have that create brick scene function, which just takes the number of rows and columns and just makes, like you were seeing, just a grid of bricks, right? Whatever rows and columns. So we can come in here and we can change the number of rows. And you can see it updates that. I also have some logic to center it, because if I don't center it, you can see down here, then this should probably be encapsulated maybe within the brick scene in some way, but I'm just kind of, you know, make it work first, then make it clean. And you see we're just if we don't do the translations, I guess we can't do it without the translations, but let's just say, I don't need to actually show you, but essentially the bricks will get drawn in the bottom left corner of it. So this is just translating it, so it's center horizontally, and then towards the top you can see we're taking the bottom of the bricks of each brick, right, because we're iterating, adding the world height to it, so it moves from the bottom of the scene up to the top of the window, and then minus a little bit of margin from the top, so it's not like on the border with the top of the window. So that's how that works. So what I'm working on now, after that being done, is I want to make a function that will essentially take an array that might look something like this, which will be like a bunch of characters or strings or something, but it might be something like this. Okay, that was not the right symbol, I guess. So it might look something like this, where, you know, whatever symbols end up being, you can define, you know, a brick layout, and then it'll kind of say, okay, all the zeros or all the O's are bricks, the X's are not, so lay it out in that format. And the easiest way to do this, I think, is to kind of think about the brick scene as being on a grid. So just, you know, for each cell in the grid, is there a brick here or is there not a brick there? And it's that kind of that simple. I think that's the best way to do it. You know, because there's an ambiguous level of I guess flexibility here, and it's kind of up to me to choose how flexible I want it to be. You know, would there potentially be bricks of different sizes that would mess up that grid thing? Maybe, but like I'm just kind of doing simplest to start. So let's just, obviously this function would take an argument that is the kind of the brick layout, but for now I'm just going to have it, I'm just going to define it in here. So let's just say bool, it's a vector of bools. I'll just call it layout. It's just simple, so I think it'll make more sense to, you know, I mean, what I could do is have like a file that's like level 1 dot, I don't know why dot, you know, scene, and that would have some stuff like an actual, something like this, you know, like kind of what I was doing before. But for now, I'm just doing booleans because that's simple and won't require any like translation. So let's just do something simple. It doesn't really matter. Something like that. So we'd also need to define rows and columns. So rows in this case would be 2. And of course, you know, this isn't actually laid out like this. It's kind of laid out like this, so it doesn't know what the layout is. If it was in a file, you'd be able to tell based on lines and new lines and things, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. We're obviously gonna have to use a lot of this logic. It's the same kind of thing. So right, for now we'll just copy and paste, and then after we'll be able to consolidate and actually make it, you know, get rid of the copy and pasting. So I'm gonna split this so I can reference it over there. So let's just use the same padding values. And this is just the amount of space between bricks. So first off, if layout, well, I guess we'd say, yeah, no, we'd say if we don't need to do anything if there's not actually supposed to be a brick there. So if layout, how would you calculate this? Might be better to actually have a matrix, you know, a 2D array, but we'll just do it for this. What is the index? How do you calculate that? It'd be R, the current row times number of columns, right? Plus C, something like that, maybe. If it's not, then we'll do continue. Okay. So let me just grab this and do this too so we can kind of tinker. We're not returning anything. We need to return. Oh, we're just so don't wait. No, okay. Let's return the brick scene. What? Oh. Okay. But if not, then is this going to be the same? Or X is going to be the current column times the brick base. Let's just do the exact same and see. I don't know if it'll need to be modified at all. Let's see what happens. Okay, well, something's kind of working there. I think the issue is that it's going to be some sort of weirdness with the calculations. Or I'm not using the calculation. Okay, I'm not doing this at all. Yeah, so what's happening is, let's just see. What the problem is the brick scene's width and height are not being initialized. So they're either random values or they're 0 or. So they're just 0. So it's getting placed because what you're doing is you're coming down to the render loop and you're saying, all right, so let's place it at the left position plus sports. So we're moving all the way to the center. Yeah, all the way to the center minus this, which is 0. So we're just saying the position, you know, down the lower left, pull to the center. Okay. And this we're saying, let's move it to the top. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. So we can actually, we just need to actually, you know, set that up. I don't really need it. I'll just copy it. What am I doing? See about that. Okay, cool. So that just works. That wasn't that bad. So then we should be able to change this. Say from file. I need to run myself on how to do file input. What the fuck? Why am I stuck on this, man? There we go. Okay, there we go. So let's. Do I have an? Oh, I don't know. I thought I had somewhere. I had some sort of file input. Yeah, up here. Yeah, whatever. We'll just do it now. Oops. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm struggling. Is that what I want to read from the file? Input, okay. Seems very not C++ though. Get line, read file. There's just so many different ways to do it, you know? I guess whatever. I was not just declaring the scope, but it was. Okay, great. So we want to come over here and then do see, I'm not sure where this file needs to be, but let's just totally random stuff, I don't know. Okay, we're putting the file out, cool. But then we'd want to do, we can honestly store it internally as just true and false, right? Like we don't really need, there's not really any reason to save it as the characters, right? So we have that, and we say here, does this trim the new line? No, what am I doing? Whoa, 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 whoa. That's fine. Okay, it trims the new line apparently. Cool. We'd also need to calculate the rows and lines. Okay. Then we want to say, how do you iterate? Iterate through a string. Iterate over a string. So I've never understood iterators because I just do C and Python or whatever else. I'm like, what is all this junk? Why not just do that? Like that makes more sense, right? Or like actual for loop, but yeah. So for char C and string. Let's call this line. Is that working still? I think it's working. Usually calls plus plus. I mean, really, what we're gonna do? Well, no, we can just throw it into the vector. Well, the main thing is rows, right? The main thing we want is the rows. Columns is then, because think about it this way: if we have a vector like this, right here, and we know that we have 2 rows, then we can just say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 divided by 2. Okay, we can just say calls equals the number of elements in the vector divided by rows. And it's kind of confusing, but like it's either that, or one way to do it is just say calls plus plus, but each time calls equals 0, so it doesn't accumulate. You don't want, like, this would end up being number of columns times the number of rows. So either way, it's kind of confusing. Probably is a better way to do it, but those are just the two ways that kind of pop into my head. So we just say layout push back C. Maybe. I guess in this case we are not. Okay, here's what we want to do. Is brick equals C. C equals, right, something like that. So that it compiles. Yeah, because we have this. Huh. Okay. I don't know if that's correct, but it is doing something. Okay, it's upside down. Huh, it's upside down. Why is it upside down? Hold on, why is it upside down? Why are you upside down, buddy? Yeah, the single should be the top. That's interesting.
What? Because when I had it before, just hard coded as a Boolean vector, it wasn't upside down, was it? Unless it was, and I didn't realize it. Interesting. I mean, it's obviously easy to fix. You know, if it's reversed, you just reverse it, and then it's problem solved. I'm just trying to figure out why.
It's more of an understanding, learning opportunity. Like, why is it backwards and upside down or whatever? You know, realistically, we could even, if we really want to go further with this at some point, we could even encode, you know, things like padding into the file, which would be kind of cool. You know, to say like, okay, X padding is gonna be such and such, Y padding is gonna be such and such. It'd be kind of cool. Could even have some sort of thing where it's like live. You can update the file live while the game is playing. Now I wonder what happens. This is just more of an issue in my implementation. What happens if I do this? Well, I know what will happen. It'll use the largest. Oh, what? Hold on. Because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and versus 8 there, and we decided to do 7. Interesting. Why did we decide to do 7? Oh. Because they're printing it out in the right order. That's what's strange. We're printing it out in the right order. You can see here that matches, you know, the file, the level layout. Yet though it's being displayed here is opposite. Why is that? Oh shoot, what the heck did I just do? What is this? I don't want you. I wonder if it's mirrored both ways. So if we did something like, we did 2, 4 on the 4 should be on the right side. Okay, so that's fine. It's only up and down that's mirrored. Right? I mean, yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Unfortunate collision logic. Maybe it's this. Maybe this is the issue. That has to be the issue, right? Because I mean, let's just print out the index and see what order that's in, because I'm guessing it's a little fucky. Okay, it's not fucky at all. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. What the heck, dude? You'd say layout index. So even when I'm printing it out, it's being printed. Oh, or here. Even when I'm printing it out, it's being printed out the correct way. In the second loop, I was like, it's being put in here correctly, it would seem. Strange. Strange, man. Is the render loop that's doing something weird? We're literally just iterating through the vector. That's really weird, man. I'm sure the rows and columns are correct, because otherwise stuff just won't work. Let me just do a sanity check, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it seems right. What the heck? That's so weird. I'm gonna do this calculation maybe. Let's see what we're actually printing out, huh? Let's hide that. Let's do that. Let's just say index. Let's say row. That's always such a pain to do in C++, dude. Like, where's string formatting? Maybe actually we do have printf. Okay, we do. Cool. It'll save me a little bit of time. So we'll do row column index equals whatever, x equals this, y equals this. So again, we had row column index x, y. Okay. Okay, row, no column? Why no column? Oh. So 0, 0, we have 0, 0. We have 0, 1 is 6, 0. I mean, again, this seems to be... Wait. I need to just graph this out on actual paper myself. 0, 1. This is these, because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. This would be these, whereas this one, you see how there's a gap here, right there. And that makes sense because you have a gap right here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 6 should be the next one, which it is. Second one, y equals 3. Oh, is it just because we're drawing from the bottom of the screen? Oh. It's because we're drawing from the bottom of the screen. So when I'm grabbing this guy here, there's a way to kind of visualize that. Let's change that. So when I'm drawing from the bottom of the screen, we're saying 0, 0, but that's actually this guy, not this guy, right? You're drawing from the bottom of the screen, so you're saying 0, 0 is here. As far as rows and columns go, this is 0, 0. This is 1, 0. I don't have a 1, 0. That's why, because we're drawing from the bottom of the screen. Okay. Yeah, so we just need to reverse it. But then, oh man. Kind of a pain. Because you don't want to reverse all of it, you want to reverse the rows. If you reverse the entire thing, then, you know, the entire... You just want to swap rows, really, if you have two. I mean, if you have two, it's swapping. If it was not two, it'd be more than swapping. But you don't want to change the columns, though. The columns are fine. The columns are good. I mean, let's just do a matrix version. That makes more sense, right? (2D) array representing brick scene layout. 2D array, I mean, 2D vector. Let's just call it, it's a list, bro. It's a list. Okay, so for each one, we would need a row. What we need is row. Yeah, row's not taken. Let's say for each one, we'd say row dot push back. Right here is brick. need that either. We don't really need rows and columns anymore because we have just from the vector, but that's fine for now. So for each line, we then go through each character in the lines, check is it a brick? If it is, put it in the row vector, and then down here we'd say layout, add that row vector. And then down here, instead of doing this, because it's no longer a 1D array, we'd say, hey, if layout row column, if not that, then continue. Probably issues here. Surprising. Still messed something up though. Where am I referencing layout at? The columns is going to be layout. And realistically, layout 0.size, right? That's it. Okay. Now, is that still reverse? Yes, it should be because I haven't actually done anything with that. That was just kind of set up to be able to unreverse it. So let's do that then. Let's say for each row less than row layout. So for each row, no, we don't want to. No, we don't need to loop through. We can just reverse vector. Okay. Is that correct now? That's correct now. Okay. So let me just throw a comment in here saying reverse because 0, 0 is bottom left of screen. So the verticality is reversed. Okay, this function is kind of gross, to be honest with you. Just add some comments if nothing else. We don't really need rows up here. We don't need to keep track of rows right here, but what we can do is put it right here and do it like this. Where's the layout, that size. Okay. Oh. Okay, so we create our brick scene and then we iterate through. We calculate our index, which we don't actually use anymore except for in this print statement, so we get rid of that. First off, check, hey, do we even need to draw a brick here? If not, keep going. But if we do, let's calculate that stuff. Let's then create a brick and let's add that brick to the brick scene. Let's calculate our scene width, scene height, throw those into the object as well. And therefore, we have the logic to create a scene. So we can do something cool like this. So if I'm just curious, can I do spaces work too? I think they should, right? So all I really care about is the hash, yeah. That's cool, okay. Like that. Cool. Is that brick just the exact same color, or did I mess that up? Okay, I meant to mess it up. Wait, what's wrong here? 1 2 1 1 2 7. That's right. What's going on here? Oh, what? Is it because there's not actually any characters here? Okay, maybe that's why we need to make sure we do. So if I replace all the spaces with periods, you can see we're missing some. So we need to make sure that, because I bet, let's do this. See, it's all messed up, right? Oh, it's probably because it's just grabbing random data, potentially, because it doesn't matter. I know this. I know the reason, and that should fix it. I would assume. I would hope. If not, it. Okay, cool. Yeah. See, there we go. We can also. Whoa. Hit that. Okay. So we can also, let's just say, let's create the brick scene and say, hey, brick scene dot random colors equals true. Use random colors. It's true. I mean, it's kind of pointless. I don't know. That's not the worst thing, but let's just come down here and instead of doing this, let's just do our own values. That's a problem. I mean, whatever. I can make it work. It's easier. Usually 255. I suppose it'd have to be 255, right? But how close is it? Didn't you have a 0 first? Why is it like colored out? Oh, well, still. Oh, cool. So now we have our bricks, and I'm turning off random colors. Cool. You know, obviously we could tweak those sizes and everything, but the bulk of the functionality is what I care about here. Next steps will be collision logic, because currently there is none. Which will be a good opportunity, because overall, clearly I need to revamp the collision logic, because it's dog shit. But on top of, like, just ignoring the fact that the colliding itself is really glitchy, there's an issue where the fact that, of course, obviously there's no collision with the bricks, but the thing about that is the collision is very rigid right now. The collision is based on the balls and the player object. I need to have a more robust kind of collision detecting system, I guess, where it will somehow constantly be looking for collisions with any object, and I'll be able to add, think about this type of game. What people usually do is, like, they'll have power-ups that drop when you destroy a brick, and I'll need to have collision logic with that power-up and the player object. I don't really know the kind of the mapping and the system that goes into play for just general collision logic, but that'll be the next step to look into, because that's clearly what I need to do next, and that'll be cool. I'm also curious about how to OpenGL. Let's just do ChatGPT. In OpenGL, how do you give 2D rectangles cool-ish effects like a black border on the edges, etc.? Okay, let's just see what happens if I do that. I don't really know what that is, but again, make it work, then make it cool. Brickbounce shader.frag. The problem is this is the problem now, is that this can affect everything, but that's fine for now because I'm only using one shader because all stuff's so simple. But let's just see what happens here. Oh. I don't know what these values are. UV. The thing is, I don't have the UV. Pass the rectangle's UV coordinates. What is UV coordinate? Like, I think this is seeming like more of an challenge for next time. Position within. Oh, U and V. Gotcha. So, where I left off, implemented brick scene layouts from files. Code is kind of messy. We keep chugging along. Was going to look into adding cool effects like black border around bricks. So I could also mess with textures and of course work on collision revamp. Cool. Seems like a good place to stop. More brick scene logic. Read from level from that scene file.